But I mean, anyway, it's not like he's somebody I hate now. Just somebody I can't respect. Oh. Oh, we're recording? What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Things That Only Matter If You're Unemployed. If you have a job, please click off. This video is not for you. This is not discourse for people who have 401ks. Because today we're talking about purity culture. When it's okay to do sexy stuff, and when it's not okay to do sexy stuff. And there's three main situations that have been on the minds of the social medias. The three blondes of the apocalypse, if TikTok is to be believed. Sabrina Carpenter, Sydney Sweeney, and that other lady, whose name I won't say, because I'm pretty sure it's like a Voldemort thing. I am not inviting evil into my studio apartment. Thank you very much. But all these women, in their own way, are being accused of setting back feminism and women's rights 100 years due to their antics. And I think that's probably a bit of an overreaction. If your movement can be stopped by Sydney Sweeney's bathwater, you don't have enough faith in your movement, I'm not gonna lie. But let's take a look at these, and I'll start with the most tame one. And I have many things to say, because if there's anything the discourse over Sabrina Carpenter's album cover needs, it's the opinion of a white man. And if you haven't seen the cover, god damn, I wish I had your algorithm. But here it is. You've got Sabrina Carpenter on all fours looking at us, while someone who is presumably a man holds her hair like it's a dog leash. Now, can I just say, right at the top, I don't love this album cover, okay? I don't. I think it's kind of cringe. I think it's clearly rage bait, which it's working like a charm. And I think Sabrina didn't, need to do all that. But is it groundbreaking? No. Is it uniquely uncouth or sexual in a way that we haven't seen before? No. It's definitely some freaky shit. But it's still tame. And being a freak isn't a crime. And also knowing Sabrina Carpenter, probably gonna see whoever that guy is in the picture get murdered brutally in some way in a music video. It's kind of her whole brand, Be sexy, but also men. That's her whole thing. She's not a revolutionary, she's a businesswoman. Doing business. The album is called Man's Best Friend. Clearly gonna be a play on how women have been treated like dogs by men. If you know Sabrina Carpenter, you know exactly what this is gonna be. So I'm not judging a book by its cover. I like Sabrina Carpenter. I like her music. Manchild was not the song of the summer. It pains me to say. But I'm still gonna listen to this album. Much of the internet, though, not as charitable. Sabrina will never be a serious artist if she keeps making covers for the straight male gaze. Her music lacks the radicalism necessary to subvert the imagery she employs, and I've seen that one commented probably 8,000 times. Superstar, more like porn star at this point. Her whole career revolves around sex now. Her and Sydney Sweeney are the new wave feminism antichrists in a way that both propagate the conservative views on the role of a woman in our society, such as hypersexuality for the male gaze pleasure and showcasing visual representation of obedience for male validation. Very fascinating stuff. Now, I ran a poll of the sexiest people on this planet, aka my IG followers, and we came to the conclusion that we also don't know how we feel about this. 60 to 40 pro to anti-album cover. We're all over the place. So I'm just going to tell you how I feel about how other people feel, and then you can tell me how you feel about how I feel about how people feel. Okay? And again, to the people who just don't like the cover, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't like the cover either. That's a totally valid position to have. But to the people who think that this is like turning back the clock on women's rights by 50 years, or a transparent attempt to appeal to male conservatives, or the male gaze, I think you're losing the plot a little. I'm not gonna lie. And as you may have already noticed, the most common refrain among the anti-Sabrina crowd is something male gaze. And the problem is, none of you know what the male gaze is. I'm not gonna lie. This has reached critical race theory levels of misused buzzword. Like how conservatives say DEI when really they just want to use a slur, but they know they can't. At this point, saying a woman is appealing to the male gaze is literally just TikTok/Twitter speak for, I think this woman is a It's become weirdo slut shaming at this point, just draped in academic terminology that nobody even understands. And since none of your favorite pseudo-intellectual video essayists are gonna clear up the confusion because they helped start it, I, the Club Penguin music and memes guy, will mansplain it myself. You see, the concept of the male gaze was articulated by British feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey in her 1975 essay, Visual Pleasure in Narrative Cinema. It's a means of understanding narrative power, specifically in cinema, or the visual arts. The male gaze is about what the camera is doing in relationship to the narrative and the female subject, and what we, the audience, take from this. It's not about how hot the woman on screen is, it's about how the camera and the narrative interact with her. Scenes where the camera is following the woman, but the narrative just comes to a halt, that's the male gaze, because she's literally just there to be ogled. Like Megan Fox leaning over the hood of Shia LaBeouf's car in Transformers. This is literally just eye male candy. This has nothing to do with robot aliens. I mean, where's Optimus Prime? I have no idea. She doesn't have control of the camera. She's literally just an object there for the viewer's pleasure. Compare this to a film like Anora, where Annie, our protagonist, is doing sexy stuff, but she's still in the driver's seat of the narrative. She's in control of the camera, and she's the one that we're meant to identify with. So yes, the male gaze is real in cinema and media, but it's not about how sexy you are. It's about how the narrative, the camera, and the woman on screen interact. Which is why applying the male gaze to real life makes no fucking sense. You can't do a male gaze. You can't dress or put on makeup for the male gaze. That's not how that works. It's a visual media critique, not something you can conform to or something you exist under. Women can and are objectified by men, always, like constantly, and that's bad. And I don't have a joke for this section. It's just bad. But you can't perform for the male gaze in real life because you're not in control of how you're perceived in real life. Can you alter your appearance to try and appeal to the opposite gender or to men? Yeah, sure, but that's called being straight. Or like beauty standards. That's not the male gaze. The male gaze does not mean some males are gonna gaze at this. So going back to this album cover, can you argue that it's for the male gaze? Sure, you can argue anything, but I would say it's literally Sabrina's story. It's her music. Just because she's doing some freak shit with a man doesn't mean it's for a male viewer or takes away her agency. She is presumably going to be the subject and protagonist of her own album. This is a woman who won't even do a music video if there aren't at least 3 male deaths involved. I think she's earned the benefit of the doubt that she's not performing for men. And if you think this cover does take away her agency, maybe you need to confront your own narrow views about sex. Alright, like I said, being a freak isn't a crime. For now. Again, does any of this preclude you from saying that this album cover sucks? No, of course not. But the reason so many are calling this the male gaze is because it allows them to be sex-negative prudes without getting called out for it. Because if you just called Sabrina Carpenter a harlot for this, you would get attacked. But if you say she's doing a male gaze, well, now you're just a well-read academic stating the obvious. Do me a favor and f*** off. If you want to call her a male-serving slut, just do that. Be honest about how you feel, okay? I respect honesty. Sabrina will never be a serious artist if she keeps making covers for the straight male gaze, and every single cover of hers, besides this one, is literally just a picture of her existing. Like, just call her what you mean, okay? Don't hold back. Everywhere on my feed is wall-to-wall proclamations that everything is a recession or fascism indicator. People not getting tattoos, fascism. People doing quiet luxury, fascism. More natural plastic surgery, whatever that means, fascism. Which, don't get me wrong, I agree fascism is on the rise. I have eyes. I agree a lot of these things are also indicators that the culture is swinging towards conservatism. But you can't hold that position and simultaneously hold the position that Sabrina Carpenter is turning back the clock on women's rights 1,000 years for exercising her right to do whatever the she wants. It's a tale as old as time, and it continues up to 2025. All right, if you're a woman who's not being sexy, it's because you're performing for men. If you're a woman who is being sexy, you're performing for men. You can't win. It's the horseshoe theory of Puritanism. And frankly, on top of everything, some of you would not have survived like MTV in 2002. And I mean, I didn't either, to be fair, because I was 2. But the point stands. We've done this exact same discourse 100,000 times before for 100,000 different female artists, and the result is always the same. Half the population hates them in their time, and then 20 years down the line, they get called icons, which is actually the career progression that I'm trying to go for. And Sabrina's a mainstream pop star who only reached mass fame after she started doing this Betty Boop, Looney Tunes ass sexuality. Why do so many people need this to be a thing that's deeper than what it is? She's a multi-millionaire doing more of the thing that made her millions. You don't need to read between the lines about why she made this album cover. She literally told you. It's always so funny to me when people complain. They're like, all she does is sing about this. But those are the songs you've made popular. Clearly you love sex. You're obsessed with it. Yeah, what is it they say about sex? Sex changes your tire. Sex makes a mean fettuccine alfredo. Oh, sex sells. That's what sex does. And again, you can say you don't like that. You can say you're not going to support that kind of music. Totally fair. But I think to say that she's doing like mass societal harm or, doing damage to anyone's rights or to the cause of equality, I think you need to hit the job application portal, to be honest. And to be clear, the male gaze is not a thing that exists in reality, but patriarchal structures are, and I don't with them. So I think our time would be better served focusing on the real villains of our reality, not Sabrina Carpenter. And the real villains are men, specifically and especially certain powerful men, like the ones who control our government and who eliminated reproductive freedom in this country in a move that has endangered the lives of millions of women. I was outside the Supreme Court on the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And this month, the next week, is 3 years since the Dobbs decision. It's the third anniversary of when a cabal of unelected far-right fundamentalist justices decided to overturn decades of progress because they could. Our entire government is a cabal of fascist weirdos now who are literally using every tool they have to turn the government against its people. I think we can focus on that and let Sabrina Carpenter do her thing. And I do think that some of this is disappointment that she's not more than what she is, which is a mainstream pop star. She's just probably not a feminist icon, or subversive, or an activist. She's just a pop star who's trying to hustle CDs here. I don't know when Gen Z became so puritanical. I don't know if it's a reaction to just how overtly sexual the internet feels nowadays, and I'm sympathetic to that. But honestly, guys, it's still cringe, okay? Art is art. You don't like it? Don't listen to it. Also, what's hilarious about this whole thing is just a few weeks ago, Sabrina Carpenter was being brought up as an example of a celebrity who only appeals to men in comparison to Sweeney, who, is just for men. And now here we are with Sabrina also getting dragged for allegedly trying to court conservative men with her new album. Because if there's one thing I know about MAGA Zoomers, it's how much they love pop music.
Oh, I leave quite an impression.
Yeah, guys, I'm sure the next Sabrina concert is just going to be a sea of MAGA hats. Good call on that one. But anyway, we've already spent more time thinking about this than Sabrina herself probably did. So, Sweeney. Now you can say it's for men.
Sweeney body wash genie?
What's your wish? It could be anything.
Okay. Now look. People were really not happy when she started doing this whole selling her bathwater soap thing. Which, okay, yeah, just to catch you up here, she sold 5,000 bars of soap in collaboration with Dr. Squatch. 5,000 bars that were infused with her bathwater. And now, listen. Once again, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. It's cringe. It's silly. It's a little dark, frankly. But also the view that this is somehow uniquely bad, not really. Is it worse than the Carl's Jr. commercials from like 2005? Or the Carl's Jr. commercials from 2025? Shout out Alex Earl. Is it definitely for straight men? Yes, absolutely. And the creepiest straight men around, if we're keeping it a stack here. But since when did it become illegal to make a living by selling sex and soap, apparently? Again, I don't like it. But I don't like it is different than this is the end of society. There wouldn't be a market for this if there wasn't a pandemic of, corn brand men. So, at that point, whose fault is this really? I say, let her get a bag. How does this make her not a girl's girl? People on Twitter wishing she'd go back to her pre-Euphoria time, which I would imagine is a time when she was broke and not famous. So why would she ever want to do that? The internet is so exhausting, dude. Nobody ever shits on men for doing things for female audiences. Glenn Powell was in that ass movie too. No one's calling him a harlot, except for me, of course. I mean, this guy's for the streets. And I've never watched Euphoria, so if someone wants to fact check me, go right ahead. But my understanding is that she was just like naked very often in that show, which is how she became known for just being like a hot blonde. But other than just existing as an attractive person and this whole soap thing, granted, what else did she do to earn this hate of being only for men? The soap collab is, as far as I know, the only thing she's ever done specifically aimed at a male audience. And she's even talked about feeling sexualized for no reason. Here, people forget that I'm playing a character. They think, oh, she gets naked on screen, she's a sex symbol. And I can't get past that. I have no problems with those scenes, and I won't stop doing them. But I wish there was an easier way to have an open conversation about what we're assuming about actors in the industry. Yeah, she didn't ask for this. She got a job, she needed a job, she had to pay the bills, she took the role she could get. And yeah, now she's leaning into the image that the public put on her. But I got no problem with that. Those bars of soap are being sold for like $300 by scalpers on eBay. If anything, she should have upped the prices on those things. She left money on the table. She could have had these gooners after paying that soap. And honestly, going on the Dr. Squatch subreddit and just seeing the legions of dudes who are mad that they couldn't get their hands on the soap because it got botted immediately, that is cinema in of itself. Don't get me wrong. If I come over to your house and you've got the Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap, I'm calling the police. You need to be in a cage if you bought that. Granted, if you bought one of these, you probably did need soap, if we're being honest. But I just hope they put tracking devices in every single one of these bars so all these guys can get put on a list. But again, at the same time, if Sydney Sweeney wants to sell her bathwater in a soap form, you know what I mean? We're all living in capitalism. You know, you got to use whatever tools you have to get ahead, as long as it harms no one, which no one got harmed here. Also, didn't we already do this whole thing with like the gamer girl bathwater or whatever from 5 years ago? I'm pretty sure the simulation is just rerunning plot lines at this point. Is this worse than the Gwyneth Paltrow vagina candle just because it's marketed towards men? Is it worse than the candle? Like, probably, but it's marginal. Who cares? Non-issue. I don't care. So here's where we are, okay? Sabrina's album cover. I don't like it, but I don't even think it's for men, and I'll defend it. Sydney Sweeney's bathwater soap. I don't like it. It's definitely for men, but I'll still defend it. But now we have something that I simply cannot defend. Something I don't like, something that's definitely for men. And it's deeply, deeply distasteful.
They're still children. My nephew's 18. He's still a child.
I'll send him to me then.
Ew.
No, I'd absolutely never do that.
Hopefully I'll find him in my queue one day.
No, I don't think he will.
Ew. Ew.
You have a very specific niche, don't you?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So, barely legal, 18-year-olds.
The is this, bro? Is she on Good Morning America? They got her on national television talking about barely legal as her specialty. So Bonnie, you've carved out a very specific niche for yourself called boys that are still in high school. Why don't you tell us more about that? Give me a fucking break, bro. All right, guys, listen. Right out of the gate, I can't even believe they're bringing up this woman in the same sentence as Sabrina Carpenter and Sydney Sweeney. I mean, we are talking about an Avengers level threat here. This lady is not even close, not even in the same universe as those other two. We're comparing apples to an orange here. An orange who's a borderline predator. And so to catch you up too, so basically this is the OnlyFans creator who slept with 1,000 men in one sitting, and she was poised to do a second 2,000 men petting zoo this month. But then OnlyFans stepped in and banned her.
To watch me be in a glass cage for 24 hours.
To do what in a glass cage?
Well, I'll just be like a zoo animal. They can come if they want to me, they can me. If they just want to stare at me, they're welcome to. But I'm going to be tied up in a glass box for a couple of days, and my body is for everyone.
And do you know how much of a villain you have to be for OnlyFans to be like, hey, you're ruining our image here. Our sterling reputation is being negatively affected by you. And here it is too. Before the ban, she was making $689,000 a month on the platform. She was making all that money, like $8 million a year, and she was still planning on doing that freak off with 2,000 dudes. Folks, I support women's rights. I support women's wrongs. I cannot support this. This is essentially recording self-harm, okay? Like, I know freedom and all that, but there's gotta be a line somewhere. I feel dirty just talking about this, okay? I mean, frankly, they should have, like, sting operation this thing, you know, just so we can see whatever 2,000 dudes show up, and we can just send them straight to Siberia.
And she is now possessed with something. She's not now possessed, completely possessed by a demon. Whatever y'all are talking to is not human.
She's possessed. Holy shit. I mean, I'd believe it. I'd believe it. I'm not an expert in the dark arts, but I guess that tracks.
There's something wrong with Bonnie Blue. She's a demon. She's demonic. Okay, not only is she demonic, but she's a freaking weirdo.
Honestly, I'm gonna let TikTok cook on this one, because frankly, we can sidestep the whole, like, what is acceptable sexual expression debate if we all just agree she's from hell.
Let's talk about soulless eyes in women.
I'm crying, bro. The Twilight Zone music is crazy.
She has these soulless, voided eyes that you can just read into and not see anything.
Listen, guys, I don't know what possessed her. I really don't care. If what you're doing is too extreme for OnlyFans, you've probably reached the limit of acceptable self-expression on the internet. How about that? You may feel differently. You may think anything goes. I disagree. I think the amount of gooner content on the internet is insane to begin with. I don't think some guardrails on this stuff is necessarily bad. Because, I mean, come on, guys. Come on. What is this?
I don't think I've gone young enough. Yeah, I want the most barely legal 18-year-old. Ideally just 30 seconds past midnight.
I might have to get the holy water out, bro. She's also marketing this diabolical shit on platforms like TikTok. And again, you know, there's underage people on these things, man. Again, how is this on the same level as an album cover? Please, someone explain that to me. But I don't know, we'll see. I don't know where she's gonna land after this ban. Hopefully it's in a therapist's office, but I doubt it. Folks, here's the thing. I'm not a video essayist, but if I was, I would say that it's easy to be a champion of freedom and choice when people are using that freedom to choose to do things that you like. What's harder is to stand by that belief of freedom of expression, even when you think that freedom is being exercised in a way that you personally disagree with, or even in a way that you think is harmful. You can get rid of the gatekeepers, the men in suits, but at the end of the day, people are always going to be able to make money selling sex, and so they probably will. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't think it's either. But I do think that we're hyper-woking ourselves back into Puritanism, and that's unproductive. And also weird. Because I'll say this, I'd rather live in a free society where we can have these endless debates over where the line is, than have the line decided for us by the government. And honestly, I regret making this video, because now I have a better idea of where my line is.